Hey guys, my name's Alex Barham, and this is going to be my review for the Dagger Rewind. You've been chasing me around in circles, hoping to see this sooner, but I spent about 6 weeks in the boat, and as always, these are done when I'm comfortable and ready and not before. By the same token, if you have a boat that you really want to see a review for before you buy it, telling me is awesome, it lets me know, but the best people to tell are customer service for that company. I can't review it if I don't have my hands on it, and if I have my hands on it, you're probably gonna see footage of it and a review coming out. So the best thing you can do if you want a review fast is badger the company, don't badger me. Dagger has a really long history of being very strong in the half slice category. You know, we're coming up on 30 years already of the RPM being out, and it is one of the most legendary whitewater kayaks of all time. The Axiom came out in 2009, and it basically came to a market that wasn't looking for it, but was still extremely good. Now the Rewind is out to a time in the market that's really hot for these boats. The challenge was definitely on for Dagger to deliver and live up to its name, and they absolutely, without question, did that. For more about what was going through the team's head while they were making this boat, you can check out my interview up here with Snowy. Snowy is the head designer for Dagger, and you can get it right from the man himself, what the process was, why things are the way they are. First things first, unlike most of the boats that are coming out right now, the Rewind only grew on the 8.5 Axiom by a couple inches. So it is not a full 9 feet, it is 8.9. Well, what's the big deal? Well, if it's not gonna be a racing boat, and as we depart from the Sick Line series, we don't need 9-foot boats anyway. So it's actually nice not to be adding length to something that you're gonna be trying to stand up in shallow water. Those like me who's spending a lot of time in the Axiom will find that the Rewind is a much narrower platform. The seat sits higher because they upgraded to a creaker system, which is a huge upgrade. It'll make the boat last a lot longer and be significantly safer. The other thing that you'll notice is that it really carries speed in a completely different way. The Rewind feels kind of similar to a Braaap in the way that it builds and then carries speed through drops. You're gonna find that it is more stable at speed than it is sitting still. It kind of feels like skiing in that way, where you could ski all day stable and then stop and fall over. In many ways, I found paddling this boat that even though it is very aggressive and very with the times, it also sticks to a lot of happy mediums. And that was something that in talking to Snowy became very apparent. They're trying to find a boat that is sporty enough for everybody, but capable enough for everybody. And I think that that really was accomplished in this boat. You have a deck on the stern which sheds water. You have plenty of volume up in the knees. That gives you a lot of on-river capability. The Rewind likes to hit stuff fast, use that volume and rocker up front to get on top of it, and then use that shedding stern to squeak out and ride away with the bow up. By the same token though, the stern is slim enough and sporty enough that yes, it takes a little bit more effort than some other designs, but it is very playful. You'll also find that it is very stable on end. I usually associate this with the pointiness of Dagger sterns. This just means that there's less volume way below you trying to escape and more volume right behind your hips. It just makes a much more stable stern stall. The obvious question is going to be, what is going to differentiate this boat from a growing fleet of options in the half slice, super capable river runners of today? I think by far it's going to be the build quality and outfitting of the Dagger boats and the really aggressive play, but all-aroundness that the Rewind brings. It is a very thorough package, and it doesn't leave a lot to be desired. One of the few things I did notice was that because of the narrower frame and less of a arrowhead shape to the boat, this does not surf nearly as well as the Axiom did. That thing was an absolute pleasure on green waves because basically it really resembles a playboat when it's up in carving, and it's going to be hard to replace that in my mind. One of the challenges that presents anyone making a boat in this field is that the temptation for paddlers is to use whatever you give them as their sole boat. You know, they're going to want to do absolutely everything in it, which means that it has to be playful enough to surf waves, but also built well enough to survive creaking. I think that the Rewind is definitely going to sacrifice a little bit on the play side, which honestly is the least important side for this boat in my mind. But when it comes to durability and ability to go on vertical stuff, very high. The real difference to a lot of these boats is going to come down to personal preference and the feel that the designer was going for and then you ultimately get as the paddler. For the Rewind, it is akin to a Phantom, but in no way would I call this like a Ripper Phantom. It is definitely sportier. It's going to demand more from you. It is not as forgiving in mistakes, and it definitely doesn't have the same level of secondary stability. But also, nor should it, right? If you're going into the Mank, take a real creaker. That said, the feeling of the Rewind is that same zooms up to top speed, very stable at top speed, turn with your knees, confident feeling that I think of when I think of the Phantom and to some degree the Axiom. As opposed to something like the Ripper, which has a slightly narrower platform and really feels like you're riding a monorail as you ride one edge and then the other. The Rewind is just happier sitting flat. And when it does turn, instead of engaging the whole rail, it tends to pull the bow up and into the turn, releasing some areas of your chine and engaging others. This really reminds me of kind of a more aggressive Braaap, but without the kick rocker. So really, I just place it in the center of a multi-circle Venn diagram. You know, it has so many similarities to everything else because we are looking for the same things in so many ways, but it's also very uniquely itself. It gives you quite a bit of everything that you would be looking for in one of these boats, but it's not necessarily always the pinnacle of whatever that attribute could be. To do something to a really high degree, you're always going to have to give up somewhere else. To that end, one thing I think Dagger left on the table when they made this boat was that beginner friendliness and just warm, fuzzy feeling that you got in an Axiom. That boat, for so many clubs, you know, beginning boaters, so many people, was the first boat they really clicked with, and it was just an incredibly stable, reliable platform. That also was its undoing with a lot of advanced boaters who wanted a toy. It does make sense why they chose to go this way, but you no longer have on the market yeah, you want a really stable but fun tadpole boat? Go check this out. We'll see who fills that void, but for now it'll be empty in the new boat range. Now again, the medium Rewind sits at 8'9". This cedes the short boat territory solidly over to Jackson, who's putting out the Antics 2.0, which is much closer to that 8.5 foot range. So if you're a shallow water boater looking for a toy, you are going to be able to stand up into stern stall in water that's, shallower than, this boat. This boat, though, is significantly shorter than the Braaap and the Ripper. So, is that going to be the difference for your summer? Is that going to be the difference for your summer? I don't know. but it's something that I consider when I take these boats out. All right, so from 10,000 feet, what's the real takeaway here? Of all the half slices I've paddled, I am most comfortable in the hardest whitewater in the rewind. I found myself running things that at the time didn't really seem like a hard decision, but then looking back on it, I realized I would not have run if I had a different half slice with me. By the same token, it's extremely comfortable, and I just found myself generally at ease in this boat, yet at the same time, it is quite sporty. Now, as I covered in my snowy interview, for some reason, a lot of people have had issues getting that performance out. So, real quick, leave the seat in the stock position. It comes back a little bit already. Don't add any hip shims. Pull the foot block once you have the foam in there as far back as you can until the boat is tight. Then fit. Just by pulling the weight out of the bow, that was more than enough to make this boat sporty but capable. And that really always seems to be the sweet spot now that I know to do that. I don't know why it's difficult for people on this one to outfit, but there you go. There's really no tricks or gimmicks or any hard sales pitch for this boat. This boat speaks for itself. You get in this thing, give it a solid chance, and it just performs beautifully. Definitely a lot of work went into this. It all paid off, and this is something that you should absolutely go and have a look at if you're going to be buying a half slice. Might not be the right one, but it'll definitely be a solid starting point for you to figure out where you want to go from here. This boat is probably going to take an extreme amount of abuse if it's your main whip, and good news is you have a 5-year warranty. So that's the best in the business. You're most likely to get some sort of support if something goes wrong and it's the manufacturer's fault. I know I can take the bottom off of a half slice in a year if I really want to. All right, well, that's about it. If you enjoyed this, please hit like, subscribe. If you have a question, please just leave a comment below, and I promise I will get back to you.